And welcome to Frontrunners in Sports Management 5.0. Thank you for being part and honestly supporting a conference that is happening for the fifth time and is trying its best in order to support our industry in sports and tourism. I would like to call on stage Dr. Eugenia Tzoumaka to help us with the next session, which is sport tourism and research. Good morning.
Good evening for me.
Good evening. Yes, I see the sun. That's why we are in Greece. So, Eugenia, the stage is yours.
Thank you so much, Akis. Hello, I'm very happy to be here again at Frontrunners in Sports Management, the fifth version. And I'm very happy to be discussing with you today the sports tourism new insights from new events upon which we have conducted quantitative primary data research. This is part of a long project that we have presented in previous years. We have been collaborating with Professor Stella Livadi on the aspect of sports tourism. This is a research that we have been conducting for the past 3 years, if I'm not mistaken, along with Active Media Group, and this is also funded by the Center of Excellence in Food, Tourism and Leisure. So allow me to show you the agenda for the day. So we will start first with some advancements in world tourism. We will see what has been happening in the Greek tourism, and of course we will be discussing the sports tourism industry. Then we will review two events, specifically Stichiman, Aegean Bowl Festival, and Santorini Experience, and we will be comparing data and insights with previous years' information. Finally, we will see some implications for the future, and hopefully the moderator will assist us in a fruitful conversation about sports tourism. What we have been seeing in the past years is that the setback caused by the pandemic in the sports industry is starting to rebound. Still, we have not reached the pre-pandemic levels. The increase in revenues and the flourishing of the industry in tourism has been very promising, but nonetheless, the tourism sector looks for resilience and new solutions. The challenges that we have been facing were global, but Greece, unfortunately, was not an exception to this rule. And we have experienced a tourism decline that created a loss of approximately 24 billion. So the COVID repercussions were particularly intense when it came to the output of tourism. This is exhibited both in terms of the arrivals. You can see the steep decline of arrivals and then some rebounding that hopefully will reach in 2023 the pre-pandemic levels. And of course, unfortunately, this has been exhibited also in terms of the expenditure. The overall spending, regardless if this was local or global or international, has been declined, thus creating losses for the Greek tourism industry. Fortunately, statistics show that the contribution of tourism has been increasing. This statistic that you see here has been much lower in the previous years. And what we have been discussing as a solution, as part of addressing what we in academic research say VUCA circumstances, volatile circumstances, uncertain circumstances, is the solution of sports tourism. When we are referring to sports tourism, what we do have in mind is any leisure-based travel activity that individuals engage in so that they will temporarily move away from their homes and they will seek to participate in sports activities or watch sports activities, physical activities, so that they will be able to enjoy. A part of sports tourism correlates also with venerating attractions associated with physical activities, sports museums, etc., etc. Two major forms of tourism are very well known to the practitioners, but also to academics. So We refer to the passive sports tourism. Passive sports tourism refers to spectating sports in any occasion without necessarily participating in those. And this accounts for 59% of the market share in the sports tourism industry. It makes some sense if we take into consideration mega events like the Olympic Games or football World Cups, etc., etc. But we also have active sports tourism, which refers to 41% of the market share in the relevant industry. Here we are again referring to the participants who will take on a holiday so that they will visit Ios and play beach volleyball, for example, which means that they will physically engage in the participation of sports. Prominent examples globally are what you're seeing also on the presentation: golf and skiing, popular winter sports, participating in organized events like the ones that we'll be discussing today, but also adventure tourism activities that are more of a leisure yet athletic nature. Sports events represent one major aspect of the sports tourism industry, and by definition, when we're discussing events, we are implying athletic activities, competitive in nature by default, that involve the skill or the physical prowess. The global sports event market is one of the promising ones. In 2021, rebounding from COVID, but also being an important aspect of getting back to our normal lives, the market was evaluated at approximately 185 billion. And it is projected to more than triple in the next 10 years. And the cumulative growth rate, the annual one, is assumed to reach 10.5%, which means for marketeers and sports managers in general that we look at opportunities. Sports event would not be discussed in a conference like this, or would not be under the radar of the public policies unless they came with certain benefits. One of those benefits is the economic impact, what we will be seeing today with primary data collection insights, and what we have been demonstrating in research, mostly though for US destinations and events, and mostly orientating to major events. So for the smaller events, the ones that frequently take place in Greece, unfortunately, data are limited, but we're working towards this direction. So sports events definitely serve as the catalyst for the economic development, not only in the sense that they're generating revenues, but also in terms of how they contribute to their host destinations. There is an influx of tourists, profoundly the active sports tourists that visit the destination so that they will participate in the event. But as we will see also in the data that we will be presenting, those sports participants are also accompanied by their friends, their acquaintances, their kids, their siblings. So we have a multiplier effect in terms of the impact. It is also very important that various sectors benefit from this revenue-generating process. Hotels, restaurants are all benefiting from those externalities, as we say. Sports events do not only have this economic impact, despite that it's reasonable that we will place the focus on the economic impact. There are many more benefits that we see the societies benefiting from when sports events are organized. What you're seeing as the first bullet is the social impact, the sense of community. This is also demonstrated in the data of the Stihima Aegean Ball Festival that we will review later. So the celebration and the sociability of participating in an event, volunteering in the event creates those benefits. And of course, there are connections among diverse groups of individuals who share the sporting experience. And as discussed earlier in the introduction, sports constitute a very strong departure point for connection. In larger scale events, we also have benefits pertinent to the infrastructure. Many of the times there are investments in state-of-the-art facilities or venues, which creates subsequent benefits for the society. Primarily though, we have the sport participation and development, so increased participation and promoting the spirit of athletic development is quite important for the local societies. In the case that sustainability has becoming an ongoing priority for events as well, the implementation of sustainable practices come with certain benefits for the societies as well, whereas education, opportunities through sports, engaging minors, engaging the society in such initiatives fosters the awareness for specific sports as well as the development of skills, which is also the last benefit that we see across the multifaceted impact. For marketeers, we know very well that creating value and equity for destinations might be challenging, especially for destinations that are not very popular, or creating and shifting the destination image from the sun, sea model that we typically follow to an extension in low seasonality periods. So sports events create this platform for destination marketing, and they create the unique offerings and through the exposure that they have in global and international media. Moving on from the theoretical part to the practical part, allow me to introduce you to the first event on which we have conducted research, and this is the Stihima Aegean Ball Festival, and I hope that I will make the video work, or not. How many of you knew about this event? Quite a few. It's quite a popular event in the sense that it comes with what in marketing we address as the mainstream celebrity. It has been inspired by Yorgos Pridezis, a European record holder, basketball player, many times champion with the team Olympiakos. It has been organized at least 5 times with some disruptions during COVID. And the idea behind this event is not an actual 3-on-3 competition, but it is more than an athletic basketball festival, a social event that emphasizes the fair play, the healthy living through sports, and this is why it also includes many age groups, as you see here, categories under 11 years old, 13 years old, etc., etc. In 2023, we had the honor to be there collecting data, asking, observing the event, the structure of the event, but also talking to the participants. So the participation included more than 400 athletes of all age groups, as you see here. From this, we exclude invited guests, all-star gamers who competed in the festival and as part of the celebration. We conducted research in participants who were over 18 years old. We had the honor to also talk to parents of minors, but we will focus on the active sports tourists who are the over 18 years old basketball players, athletes who like basketball. And the average age of the participants in this event was 31 years. 60% of those were residents of Attica, whereas there is an important percentage, the 27% or more or less, of locals who were at Syros in July and who wanted to compete and enjoy. Profoundly due to the age, the young age, most of the participants were not married, they did not have kids, a majority were employed, and the average income of the participants in the event was approximately €960. The educational profile is relatively high, as you see here, but due to the young age, many of the participants were also college students on their vacation. Despite the fact that we were expecting the majority of the athletes being there being more or less professional, and by professional here we define the ones who make even a small salary out of this profession, we saw that there were many amateur athletes and a vast majority of purely recreational participants who went to Syros for the joy of the game and what the mission of the event implies. What was really interesting is that when we asked the participants whether they had in their mind visiting Syros, in any case, regardless of the event, a large percentage replied that they wouldn't unless they would take part. Whereas there was a 20% saying maybe yes, maybe not, but since the opportunity was given, now I'm here to compete. As you see here, there are also many participants who would visit, but we should take into consideration also the local residents here. Interestingly, those are not random participants. Those are participants who had visited previous tournaments, and this is why you see an approximately 56% having taken part in previous years, which means that they enjoy and that the event can become now a tradition. What is also very interesting is the fact that this is a highly socially laden event. Approximately 80% have been traveling with other friends and acquaintances that were totally irrelevant. We were not referring to the athletes they were competing or their teams. We particularly asked whether they are participating with friends, acquaintances that will not and would not take part in the event. And of course, when we asked how many people, it was very interesting that there is a 10% that comes with a crew. You see that they come with more than 5 friends just to enjoy the Syros' beauties, which makes total sense. Overall, this is an event that, due to its nature, it has qualifiers, and then teams expect to compete also the next day. The participation and the travel, the trip, durates more than just 1 or 2 nights. So the average was 4.1 nights, and you can see the rest in terms of the distribution. The economic impact is also substantial, and here we are only referring to the athletes. We're not referring to the families who took their kids to Syros. We're not referring to the increased income by locals. We are referring to new income that comes to Syros as a result of the event. So the average spending per night was 55.1 euros. I wish I knew who can book such a low price in July at Syros. The average spending per day, and those are individual expenses, not group expenses, are 35.5 euros. And retail expenses, the market of Syros allows for such expenses, were approximately 42 euro. Let's move on to Santorini. And now, Santorini experience is a totally different event, laden with symbolic values, coming from an inception that pertains to the Greek history and mythology. It includes a race devoted to the Daedalic core of Thera, and it's a much more challenging event in terms of the physical prowess. You see that it includes swimming and running, and the demands are substantially different than a recreational basketball tournament. The participants' profile is similarly different, substantially different. So we see here that the average participant is 43 years old, mostly male at 75%, very well educated. You see graduate education being prominent here. Family people, parents of one or more kids, and of a very high financial socioeconomic status. Here, the dominance of amateur athletes, not recreational, who would swim and run that many kilometers just for recreation, still there are some people, and very satisfied participants. Overall, as you can see, more than 85% are satisfied to highly satisfied from the experience. Again, the social aspect, the social capital is prominent. It is not a friends event as we see at the Aegean Bow Festival, but still the social aspect is common. 96% had the overnight stay, despite the fact that they could do the island hopping and change. The event allowed for such an occasion, but of course Santorini is no destination that you would visit for one night. The majority stayed 3 or 4 nights. But what is impressive in the sense of how events contribute to society and how different ways they can do so is the spending. As you see, the average night spending per person is 3 times the Aegean Ball Festival statistic. We are discussing about 135, 36 approximately euros. And of course, the spending on food is again high at 54 euros, and the retail expenses are substantially higher at almost 80 euros. Because of our experience, we have the opportunity to compare with previous statistics and what we have discussed last year, more or less, in the Frontrunners Response Management 4. What we're seeing is another marathon swim at Pevki, Evia, where the accommodation cost was 49 euros, the daily costs of meals were substantially lower, as well as the retail spending, given that the destination did not allow for such purchases. And what is also impressive is how differentiated segments behave accordingly. What we're seeing here is the Navarino Challenge statistics with participants spending approximately 400 euros in accommodation, given that the majority resided at the Costa Navarino resort. The daily cost of meals is substantially higher, as well as the retail spending. Concluding, what we wish to keep as a key takeout is the fact that sports tourism allows for many opportunities, allows for segmenting audiences, national, international, and even global ones, so that they could keep stimulating the Greek economy and the Greek destination. As sports tourism sustain itself and continue to evolve, it presents major opportunities for development, and with that, I conclude, and I'm looking forward to the questions.
Thank you, Eugenia. It's amazing what you have done all these 3 years, Eugenia, and together with Stella and with the support of the events. It is true that we started with Navarino, with the authentic marathon swimming, and with Zagori mountain running. So we had 3 major sport tourism events, and later on we added Syros and Santorini as well. So we have 5 major sport tourism events that we have conducted a really important work for sports tourism. I think these are the only numbers we have in Greece, am I right?
To be fully honest, for small events, because those cannot be considered mega events, like the Rally Acropolis, for example, this is an exclusivity that we...
And we are talking also about leisure events.
Of course.
Okay. I think what is important to understand from this research is that it helps a lot organizers. It helps a lot to understand what the events need to do in order to improve, what we have to do in order to understand the municipality, the local authorities, to understand the economical result that brings to an area, to a town, to a city, to a region. I would like to ask exactly regarding the spendings. I think I know that all the other numbers you showed us are very important, but to be honest with you, as an organizer, when I'm talking to the local authorities, the question I always get is how much money, will be in my region, in my town, in my city, will be left, and how this will benefit the residents. So, do you think that sometimes people, for example, in Santorini, they are shy to say, or how much money they spend? Because honestly, the 136 euros per night, I don't know exactly where it was definitely not in Firaoria, probably was in Perissa, in the other side of Santorini, for those that doesn't know. But I guess the answers are honest, right?
Yes, the answers are honest. They are recalling the expenses that they have made. Of course, we should take into consideration that nobody travels alone. So when they're referring to the individual expenses, practically they're saying that this is double the price for a double room, and which is shared between the participant and maybe their family or a co-athlete and so on.
At the same time, the spending is multiplied by their friends, if I'm not wrong. Yes, we have to look at the camera and understand. Thank you. We look at each other, which is more common because we are on stage. Okay, so I will look straight ahead. So, for me, it's important because when I discuss with colleagues abroad, when I see numbers from sports tourism all over Europe, they told me, for example, in Catalonia, in Spain, the tourism sports has an impact of 230 million euros. And I said, how they figure out, how they know, how they did it. I mean, can we have these numbers in Greece? Can we find out exactly the numbers that in the next session we're going to have Ios, Mykonos? Can we find out, for example, in Kyklades, how much money people spend for sport tourism? Is it possible?
It is possible, but to be fully honest, this requires much collaboration because those are not necessarily primary data. We cannot ask people for like 100 questions and expect them to accurately remember exactly how much money they spend. And of course, there are many categories of expenses that are not direct expenses. They include the transportation. Many of the times this is easy if we're talking about Syros and the cost for the ticket, then this is straightforward. But if we're asking to accumulate like the expenses for the gas, the tolls, then complex mental processes are asked. Nonetheless, and of course this implies collaboration with policymakers and at the senior and top level, we could have records from hotels, which is a laborious yet very scientific and feasible process. And hopefully it will be the future.
I know that feeling because you always ask me about details about the events, and I always try to find, some time to give all the info to Eugenia and Stella. Yes, because for example, I would like again use Catalonia because in the recent Sports Tourism Symposium, it was mentioned that they had 133 million euros from indirect economic impact. So my point is that there are so many things that we need to take in consideration. What about the lifeguards, that they keep working until end of October because we have swimming events? What about the people that they are running the gyms in the hotels, or they are working in football or soccer, stadiums that they help us do events? We don't take in consideration none of this, so I think we need to start doing this. Honestly, I love the idea that we brought in the table 3 years ago together with the DIRI, the American College of Greece. I think this is the first, let's say, Sport Tourism Observatory. And I am glad that this will find very soon people that will follow this and will keep working on this. Some questions very quickly because we're running out of time. How has the landscape of traditional Greek sports evolved over the years? And what role do they play in contemporary Greek society? At least from these two events, from Syros and Santorini, do you think, I will just change the question because it will be better to answer regarding these two places. Do you think that the landscape, or let's say Syros, totally changed during the Stigma Aegean Ball? And did Santorini change, or the organizers used just the natural beauty in order to conduct a sport event?
Would you imagine if I answered the second? It would be very interesting. What we see is that the creation of a sports image destination, an event taking place at Santorini during October, is not the casual peak season. Creating such a cultural sports profile for the destination definitely changes the landscape. To be fully honest, swimming events and running events were not a tradition in Greece, but sports tourism created the culture, and this is the social impact that we have been referring to as the additional benefits adding up to the economic impact. Similarly, in Syros, where I had the pleasure of visiting in the summer, it was a festival, it was a celebration. And this is very important at the grassroots level. Children playing at 40 degrees, but still competing and enjoying, seeing their favorite footballers and other stars celebrating in a very healthy and social environment. So in that sense, both sports-wise, but also social-wise, I think that those events are highly contributing.
Okay. Next question. How the venue can maximize their visibility to their guests with a minimum cost for them? Any marketing that can help, more benefits for them, so they can visit the island and event again and again?
They should consult with the Center of Excellence in food tourism and leisure. Just kidding here. The marketing benefits and multiplying the marketing benefits is not an easy task, especially when we're referring to small events, which means a small team of organizers who are not necessarily very familiar with all the marketing principles and for which resources are not so easy to acquire. And events are particularly intensive. A very good start, though, is the word of mouth. What we're seeing, for example, in the events is the loyalty, the repeating participants who come and then they bring their friends and they discuss, which is the first step, let's say, to increasing the awareness and creating a positive image association, which is more credible than any other type of promotion. Of course, there are subsequent steps, but I don't think I have that much time.
To be honest with you, I just go through all the questions. They are actually more referring to the organizers, so I will just try to stay with this research. The numbers that you gave us, I think are very important because they give us also an idea of how much time the people spend on an area or destination they visit. Do you have, because I know that you did not share all the research with us, do you have numbers as well if they visit or if they do any other kind of tourism during their stay?
We did not have concrete questions on the other activities that they undertake, but being in an event, and I see my dear colleague Emanuela Maganari in the audience, you also observe what is happening. For research to be conducted in an appropriate context and for it to be fruitful and insightful, we engage and we discuss with the participants, and of course we ask also about potential issues, points for improvement, and so on. So what has been very common is that they engage in activities as long as the context, and by the context I mean the region, allows or promotes such activities. Many of the times, those potential sport activities that are by default in the interest of athletes, sports tourists, are not well known to the participants. And this is a major concern and consideration.
So those events that they combine also other type of tourism, I think they can benefit even more, you know, the area and the destination.
And the destination and of course the externalities can be shared across many stakeholders.
Do you think that in the next research we should also try to take in consideration seasonality?
Excuse me?
Seasonality. I mean, when the event takes place, is this an important, let's say, will play an important role, you know, in the research?
All the events that are explored, despite the fact that they are happening mostly in the extended, let's say, period, are not considered as the high season, only with the exception of Syros in that case. In the sense that, for example, Zagori mountain running that we have discussed in the past, or the Santorini experience is not happening within July or August. Seasonality is very important, and this is why we have started the discussion focusing on how sports tourism can help in extending the tourist period in Greece. And of course, this should be taken in consideration, and it creates a better experience also for the participants.
Before we finish, I would like to take 1 minute and just share that together with Stella and Eugenia, we spent a lot of hours trying to convince organizers to accept the research, which is something that we knew it from before, let's say. It was really hard to be together with them in an event because, of course, their mind is in operations and how their event will run very smoothly, which we understand. But I would like also now to share that they were all very happy with the results of this research after they seen it, and they were more than happy because they could share it also with the sponsors. I think in Syros we had for the first time also some results for the sponsors, am I right?
This is correct. We have been asking some questions also about the visibility, the recall for the sponsors, and it's more than obvious that especially for the golden sponsors, the main sponsor, the automatic recall and the communication benefits are more than satisfactory. For sure though, sponsorship comes with a number of metrics. We have designated sessions on this conference about that, and it would be very interesting to further explore how positive events, like the ones that we have been investigating, contribute to the spillover effect over the sponsor's image.
Okay, and now last personal question.
I feel
You
exposed.
No. You have been in this sector and you have done a lot of research before we met and, of course, collaborate. What was your impression after visiting Evia, the North Evia, Pevki, Zagori, Santorini, Syros, Costa Navarino, Pylos, all these places? Because you were next to the participants, you saw them running at 4 o'clock in the morning, swimming at 6:30 in the morning. You saw them running 10 kilometers or 15 kilometers, you know, or swimming 10 kilometers or running 80 kilometers. I mean, how was that feeling? And what are your impressions from this experience?
Many of the events were truly impressive. The 4 a.m. wake up for running the ultra marathon of mountain running was truly impressive. This was one of a kind an experience. If I would like to fully reflect on that, I would like to thank you for the opportunity to immerse me in a different sports culture than the one I used to know, and a bright culture that I wouldn't even imagine that it is so intense in Greece. And this is one part of why we are truly committed in this vision, because it is worth it.
To be honest and to interrupt you, excuse me, we still have volleyball and tennis, okay, to catch up, because we're going to hear in the next session EOS Volleyball, the World Tournament. And in tennis, we heard Mr. Zanias last year talking about the incredible job they're doing in Crete. So we still have a lot to see. But I think you got a pretty good idea of sport tourism, right?
Quite a good idea.
Okay. In this point, I would like all to thank you for being part in this session. I would like to thank Eugenia Tzoumaka and Dr. Eugenia Tzoumaka and Dr. Stella Livadi for all the hard work. And I know how hard it is, you know, to keep up with all the academic that they're running through the DIRIAM and the American College of Greece, and also helping us in this conference. I would like to thank you all the participants, which there are quite a few as I can see online. And we hope to enjoy the 3 days conference and be with us as well. Thank you.